This is Breaking Down Security. I am Brian Brake. Welcome back, dear listener. This is Brian and Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
Hello.
It's going to be a bit different for us. This is, the first time in a month where we haven't had anybody other than just ourselves. I mean, you were on vacation or sabbatical or whatever it is. And, we've had tons of guest hosts. But this week, we're getting back to our roots. It's just going to be us discussing information security topics of fun and pleasure.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, they're all fun. They're all fun and pleasurable to me. And if you've been listening in the past couple of weeks, you've heard us give away our Derbycon tickets, which we did. We gave away the second one last night to, I forget his name.
You're not ready. You're not ready. Dang it.
I'm not ready for what? What am I?
Professionalism? I don't know.
No, I already picked up the ticket. I already picked it out.
Well, you don't have his name ready.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yes, his handle is Big Indian Small on, Big Indian Smalls on Twitter. He doesn't have a name on here.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. So actually, it was Chad R. That's what it is. Chad R. Anyway. So he texted me back and said, "Hey, thanks for letting me win. I have a friend who is going to be able to use it since my talk got accepted, which good for him. So we're going to meet Ryan. We're going to meet Chad and his friend at Derbycon and interview them hopefully. So
he's speaking at Derbycon. Is that?
Yeah. I think he entered with the idea that he was going to not have his talk accepted. So.
Surprise.
Yeah. So what was the best thing out of the whole bit was we managed to raise over $650 for Hackers for Charity, which is great. So I'm hoping that that comes in very handy for them.
Yeah, it's a great charity. I mean, you got to watch where you donate your money to. Some charities are kind of shady. I have an acquaintance that worked for one of these sort of, bad charities, for lack of a better term. And they do a lot of shady things, and it's incredible, some of the things I heard. For example, they would, to send money, to fill their pockets with money, they can't really just say, okay, I'm going to give myself a check. But they would do things like, oh, okay, let's make this little... let's design a plush toy, and we'll call it Mr. Snuggles, and then we'll create a side company and make 5,000 of these Mr. Cuddleses, and then we'll have the charitable organization pay this side company for the rights to produce and give out Mr. Cuddles. Real shady stuff. And they do all kinds of things like that. So,
yeah. I always try to not give to company or charities with administrative costs over about 10 to 15%, unless they've got a really good reason for it. So,
well, see, that doesn't go under administrative costs. It goes right to, hey, we're going to buy this teddy bear and the rights to it.
Okay.
So it doesn't go to administrative costs. It goes right to the charity. So that's how they kind of hide that amount. And they can't work with other more reputable and bigger organizations if they don't get their administrative costs down, because that's a big deal. People look at that and say, oh, well, your administrative costs are only 2%. That's really good. Well, if you look under the covers, it's not the case.
Yeah, that's not very nice.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was kind of a no-brainer for us when we got these tickets to, donate to Hackers for Charity. It was something we wanted to do for a while now. So it won't be the last time we do that, ticket raffles. I know the second one probably didn't get seen by a lot of people because everyone was getting drunk and hanging out at DEF CON and Black Hat and B-Sides Las Vegas. So next time we will... I think we'll have to do a better job of marketing it next time, not right, between a major convention. I think if we'd have waited until next week to give off the second one, we would have gotten more response. So
Yeah.
lessons learned. So, well, Mr. Betcher, what are we going to talk about this week? We're getting back to our roots here. So
we're gonna continue with the SANS critical controls, and I think if we spend maybe since we're getting down to the more important ones on the list, we spend a little bit more time with them,
or getting up to the most important ones. If you're following these in the reverse order that we've actually aired them,
if you go in the right order, right? So today is security skills assessment and appropriate training to fill those gaps.
So CSC 9 in this case.
Yeah, number 9, user awareness training.
Is it all just user awareness training, though? Well,
it depends on your definition of user awareness training, because that you could paint it with a broad brush.
Sure.
So it's basically making others in your organization aware that they can increase their security posture, and in what ways to do that.
Yeah. Well, security skills could also be, I know when I worked for a contractor in Austin, when I first got there back in 2009, one of the requirements for security skills was that you either 8570 certified, DoD IAM, which is Information Assurance Manager, or you got your CISSP. And that was a requirement for compliance for various contracts. So that was there was a gap there. I needed to be either 8570 certified or CISSP. And I took the CISSP at the time because it opened, I figured it would be more, helpful for my career than 8570. So that's
what is 8570?
The Department of Defense has a Information Assurance Manager certification.
Okay.
And that's what it's called, 8570M.
But that's different than what SANS number 9 is, because it applies to everyone in the organization, everyone in a company, right? Not just people that do security day in and day out, but anybody from the CEO to, a developer or, a single contributor.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just thinking about it along the lines of, if you're a CISO of an organization, it might not look good on you as a company if your CISO doesn't have the right certifications. Now, I'm not of that opinion. I believe that, if you can show that you've got the experience in your resume, that, you can pick up somebody who's not got a single certification or degree. But, a lot of people in the industry see training and certifications as a necessary thing. So a lot of these, so in section 9, this is a really quick section, actually. There's several quick wins.
All right.
They mention gap analysis in 9.1 to see which skills employees need and which behaviors employees are not adhering to.
Right. So you have to do your initial analysis to find out where you stand, get that baseline, right? So that you can perform the training after that and see how well you improved or see how effective that training is.
Mm-hmm. And is this just security training, or would this be any training that you find that the people might have a need for, like
well, certainly you could incorporate those other things when you do your gap analysis, but this is focused merely on security as far as SANS is concerned. Mm-hmm. And it's also useful to, to see where you need to start or what needs more focus. Sure. So if your users have crappy passwords, but they are, all-stars on the phishing emails, then maybe you should spend a little bit more capital on, going over what constitutes a good password.
Yeah. We're trying to get an interview now with somebody who is actually in the training industry and is, does end user training for a living, and we would like to discuss, some issues that kind of crop up from time to time about end user training. So if you were doing end user training, let's just discuss end user training a little bit. How would you go about doing that? Because when I was in the Navy and when I was with any DoD contractor, you had nothing for 364 days of the year and then 3 hours of training.
Okay.
And that was it. You know.
Well, I think that's kind of a checkbox mentality, right? That's sort of a compliance thing to do. You do it because you have to, not because, you really think it's best. And that's what ends up happening is you have that 2-3 hours of training once a year, so that the big bosses won't come down on, your manager and say, why didn't you guys do this sort of thing? We're going to get nailed by whoever if we don't do it. Right. Yeah. So that's probably the wrong thing to do. The way I would probably do it is have smaller but ongoing, it's always best to do shorter tasks more often, I suppose. Sure. That way it's more in your head, and then you project to the employees that this is important, that we need to keep focusing on it. Instead of once a year because we have to, you project that it's not as important.
Right on. So what you're saying is, say 30 minutes every quarter, maybe, cater in lunch for folks and, discuss, the prevailing security topics of the day.
One good way to do it is to have a lunch and learn. You can get management to put this in their training budget, order pizza for everybody, and then you go and demonstrate how beef works, and then that way they can see that what happens when that link gets clicked. Oh, well, I can see you through your webcam now. Joe, did you realize that something like that could happen?
Yeah.
I posted this and it showed up on your Facebook account and you clicked on it. Now I can keylog everything you do, right?
Yeah.
And then you have them demonstrate, okay, type something and then you read it out to them, things like that. I mean, that's when employees can see the ramifications. I mean, real world example. I mean, you're actually doing it for them. You're demonstrating how these, hacking techniques work. It gives them an impression that, hey, I'm gonna think harder about this next time because I know exactly what could happen. I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah. Now, should some trainings be mandatory for certain groups every quarter, or should it just be open to everybody? So let's say you're doing one on the fishing or the beef and the beef program. So would that be something HR would necessarily need to come to?
HR?
I mean, you're going to talk about beef, but you're wanting it in the larger sense of fishing. So it'd be like, you get an email from somebody, say, they're a possible new hire, or you get an email from somebody wanting to ask about jobs, and here's my resume, click here. So as the HR guy, are you going to click on that link? Well, yeah, sure, why not? Well, here's why you shouldn't click on that link necessarily.
Yeah, I think advertising helps. If you do a good job on your presentation and you have a volunteer thing, hey, you get a free lunch. Come to this training, and you make it worth their while. It's not just a free lunch, but they get to say, "Ooh, wow, I actually learned something. That was awesome." Yeah. What he did was awesome. And then you do something a little bit different the next time. More people might show up because they get the word around. This dude, demonstrated he totally pwned my machine, right?
Yeah.
He did it on, Brian Brake did this demonstration, and he sent me an email. I was in the audience. I clicked on the link, and then he completely owned my machine. Now, that would make an impression on everyone in the audience, right? And then they talk about it some more. So you do something different next time, and you advertise that, And pretty soon it's like a volunteer thing. They really want to see what you can do next.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Once you have those, of course, you have to test. So after you have your fancy, beef example, and everybody's talking about how you made that guy's webcam come on, and you're watching him from the screen. You want to wait a couple of weeks and then try sending out an email.
Yeah, you can do that.
Because you've got to test to make sure that the controls you've put into place work.
Or the training that you did, see what kind of effect. Because, number one, take a baseline. And then down below, you test to validate if it did any good. And if you did a good job with your presentation, your training or whatever, you should get improved results. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And it kind of validates to management, hey, this is worthwhile. Maybe we should keep doing this. Let's have something every month, and then you can spend time doing things you like to do, Brian, like, learning beef, learning set, hacking techniques like that, SQL injection, trying to, you can demonstrate how bad development practices on the web front end can lead to total ownage of the back-end database, things like that. If you get your next pen test and the pen tester finds something, hey, maybe you can demonstrate something like that in your test environment once you deploy it into production, the fix. Yeah. And you can say, this is how our product was 3 months ago. And then you break into the system.
Yeah. So my question is, on 9.2, it mentions delivering training to fill the gap. Okay, so you're given the training. You're able to give the training.
Yeah.
Would it have more an effect, do you think? Because I have an opinion on it as well, but do you think it would be more effective if, say, the head of information security, the CISO in this case, was giving the training instead of you?
I don't think so. I think when higher level people give a talk, it may not resonate as well as more along the lines of their peers.
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of along the same lines there. I was thinking that having the CISO or somebody of a senior level doing the training might make people feel uncomfortable, only because a lot of those folks are actually management types. So you might be afraid to ask questions. You might be afraid to get in there and or it may be that the guy may ask a question that the CISO can't answer, and that senior person's credibility could be brought under I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's it's a more friendly atmosphere, and you can have fun too. You can crack jokes, like when you take over someone's computer like that in a demonstration. I mean, you can think of a lot of clever things to say about the person. Oh, let's go see what's in this folder, things like that.
Yep. Yeah, so number 9 is pretty short because it just requires a lot of training.
Yeah.
It's all about training, and they mention that to be effective, they want you to do a holistic approach.
Okay.
For where was that? Dang it.
Holistic approach and consider policy and technology.
Yeah.
At the same time as the training of people.
Yeah. So I'm not understanding why considering policy and technology at the same time as training of people. I mean, if you're doing training, is that a good time to review policies as well to see if they still make sense?
Well, yes, you have to align the training with the policy. Okay, whatever that policy is. I don't know. don't click stuff policy. I don't think there is something like that, but yeah, I mean, holistic approach and consider policy and technology at the same time as training. Maybe you can write a policy that says, you know, don't allow tailgaters. Everybody needs to badge in.
Yeah.
You know, if that's not a written down policy and you can review that in the training, then it needs to be, right? Depending on, you know, how secure you want your physical environment.
Yep. Yeah, I hate piggybacking. I hate it when people piggyback.
So
It's
you
just
can think of things to do when somebody's following you. Well, when somebody's following me, I generally run my badge, and then I open the door for them. So I back away and let them go first, right? And then I watch and see if they badge in. And if they don't, I'm like, okay, can you badge in, please? And that way, if I badge in and just walk through, you know, I could turn around and, you know, the little thing beeps. Even if your badge is no good, it still beeps. It just turns red or green. So
Yeah.
I make sure that I open the door and watch as they badge in. And I'm doing it kind of as a courtesy too. Hey, you know, I'm opening the door for you, man. Or, you know, versus just walking right through and hoping they don't tailgate.
Yeah.
Hoping
Yeah,
they have a valid badge.
Yeah, I don't hold the. I only hold the door open with people when I can see their badge and know that they're actually supposed to be in there. So I wanted to go through some of the effective metrics. It mentions participation rate for online training courses. These are things you want to keep track of, key performance indicators, that kind of thing. So participation rate, the average scores of online tests, average scores of periodic tests. I guess if you give regular training instead of that 3-hour thing once a year, if you give 30 minutes quarterly, or, you know, it's a quick email every month or something like that, then you want to keep track of those scores to see if people are, you know, maintaining at a specific level.
And it may not be all just about scores. I mean, I think if you raise the awareness level, and note that you know, by having this training, their employees are more apt to come to you for help, to ask questions, or to inform you of things that they see, right? If they know that you're serious about this and you're really into your work and want them to be aware of these things, and you take an effort to give them the training that, you know, they may not think they have to have, but they know you're interested in it, and you're approachable too. So if they get an email and they click on it, they might say, wait a minute, maybe this could have been, you know, a phishing email. Let me just forward it to Brian, or let me go to his office and we'll talk about it. And then, you know, it may not have been detected, and it may have been spear phishing, and they may be the only one in the organization that got it, and you would never know that they got it unless they came to you and said, hey, this looks kind of funny. You know, that's where it pays off.
Yeah, I think my favorite form of training is to put out an email with, you know, let's say, well, for instance, this week I had read a story about a phishing type email where it was more of a spear phishing thing. So this guy, supposedly the CEO, sends an email to an employee saying to wire $46 million to this organization or this location, and the person did it. And that would be training that I would say, you know, this is why you want to make sure that you double check before doing any large dollar amount transfers or something like that. And then I would post a link to the article and I would send it out to everybody. Or I would say, okay, this is why you don't, this is why you don't share thumb drives with people. And I would send a link to a discussion about Chinese malware being found on thumb drive firmware or something like that. I would be one of those, and I have done this in the past, where training for me is not sitting in a classroom or clicking next on a flash video and answering 10 questions. It's, constantly reminding people of those things. I know that where I used to work with you, we were putting up posters basically saying, hey, make sure you don't share your passwords, make sure that you set unique passwords, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think constant reminder to be secure is probably better training than just, in many cases, probably better than a brown bag every quarter or whatever. If you can, make sure that whatever link you send has kind of a little message or a little blurb on it to remind people to, be safe. And, they may get tired of it. It may end up in the trash can, but at least, the vast majority will at least give it, I would hope, a few seconds of look, to, get educated on it.
Well, I'm gonna take a different approach from you there. A lot of people, and I'm not saying all, but half maybe, would probably look at your email and say, great, I don't have time for this crap. There's Brake with his emails again, showing us how much he knows or how good he is with security, blah, blah, blah. I need to get back to my work now. But at a brown bag or something like that, you could have a volunteer, bring your computer. Okay, lock your computer. Don't like physically lock it, but, lock the keyboard, right? Just leave it on. And I'm going to stick this thumb drive in your USB, and that's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to go to my computer, and I'm going to see what's on your computer, right? Just a little demonstration like that to explain how, physical security and locking your computer and all that is real important. Put your computer in hibernate when you leave or whatever.
Yeah.
Walk around and say, oh, new employee, I saw your computer on. It's not set to lock after so and so many minutes. I've even seen like a security guy before me, he would go and change the screensaver of people. And it would say something like, I forgot to lock my computer after I left, in 3D letters roaming around the screen, that kind of thing.
I used to send emails from people who left their computers unlocked.
Yeah.
And, hey, I'm going to bring in a dozen donuts tomorrow or something.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't shame people into learning security, but yeah.
I don't know. If you want free donuts, that might be a way to do it.
So what do you think of all this security awareness training? I mean, SANS put it at number 9. I mean, it's top 10. This has got to be important.
Well, I mean, what does SANS do for a living?
Security training.
Okay. Yeah. So it'd be like saying oil is great. This message brought to you by BP or something.
Yeah.
It's I think there's some weight to it. I think it's a necessary evil. I think that there's a lot that needs to be done to ensure that it's better. And, the checkbox may be 3 hours every year. But I think there's definite room for improvement in not just when training is given, but the content, because I have been doing training in the Navy and as a DoD contractor and as a civilian a civilian employee for nearly 15 years now, and they all boil down to one thing. If it isn't the anti-terrorism training that the Navy gives, which is literally 3 hours every year, it's a flash video with made-up scenarios. At the end is questions that a 3-year-old can solve, and there's no ramifications if you don't pass. You just keep taking the test over and over again until you pass, and then you print out your certificate that you've attended or completed the training and go on.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a fan of those things because for me, I just click through the flash video and then take the questions, and I get about an 80%. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good enough. Usually the ones that I miss are the company-specific ones. They're probably the questions I needed to know the most of all.
Yeah. I'm a witness to you clicking through
Hey, hey,
Flash
hey,
video.
hey, 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 hey. Don't be. Man. No, I do that. It's like, oh, this training should take 1 hour. 5 minutes later, I'm printing out the cert and sending it to my boss, and it's like, I didn't have to do anything special, The
Right.
questions are, and I don't think it's just because I know security. These questions are like, true or false? You should share your information with people you find on the street, or your password should be less than 12 characters long. And it's like, come on, dude.
Well,
I think if you want to make it hit home, you make them take the test. If they fail it, you're going to have to do some kind of remedial thing. Or
like a one-on-one or something.
yeah, one-on-one. I mean, obviously you can't go, well, you're going to do a book report on how to be, not fish or something.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've got people who are spending, 10, 30, 40, $50 an hour doing your training. And that's a loss of productivity to the workforce. So every hour you're doing something, you've just paid somebody $50 to take a training.
Oh, Lunch and Learn's seeming to be real cheap now, huh? Brown bag. So,
Yeah, maybe.
let me. Okay, my friend Lenny recently took his security awareness training. Yeah, I didn't give Lenny his training, but this was like a corporate thing, right? So here's what he had to do. He had to use Internet Explorer, something he hadn't used in probably a year,
God.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Internet Explorer is bad. I'm just saying he's not used to using Internet Explorer, He doesn't have all his little tools on there that he used to keep him safe.
Sure.
So he had to enable pop-ups.
Oh,
He had to enable Flash, and he had to enable Java. All of those things. Now, that's the definition of irony right there, my friend, because, you have to introduce all these attack vectors so you can be secure, right? That's what he had to do. Now, luckily, he turned those things off when he was done with his training. But still, if you have users that don't have Java on their computer, and let's just say if you don't need it, you don't need to have it on, because any program you install is a potential target for an attacker.
Sure.
Then they have to install Java. What do? They just leave it on, right? They don't uninstall it afterwards or turn it off.
Well, because
So this is a problem.
The security training doesn't tell them that they should. The security training tells them to not install unsecure plugins or extensions, but Flash and Java are not those things. So those are good to go. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that is not an exaggeration. I actually tweeted it out a few weeks ago. So there it is in black and white. Enable Flash, enable Java, enable pop-ups. You can't use Firefox, or Chrome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, training is important. It's just, I think...
Is it?
It is important. I think company improvement needs to occur, and that is through training, whether it be certification training to make yourself more knowledgeable about security topics, or teaching that guy to not click on that link. Now, however effective your training is how you decide, however effective your training controls are is how effective your users are going to be when coming up against these things. So if you don't train them on how to, not click on a link, because that's not what they do in their real life. I think this is what we talked about with Megan. You try to get them to understand why they shouldn't do it in real life. Mm-hmm. Why do you brush your teeth? Well, because I don't want to get tartar and get plaque. Why do you not want to click on links? Well, I don't want to have malware being put on my box.
It's a little bit harder, though. I mean, even
That's
security...
because they do it at home.
Even security companies, even hacking companies can't get it right. I mean, look at the hacking team breach. There were people working there with password as their password. Okay?
Well, do as I say, not as I do.
Well, if anyone should know the ramifications of having a crappy password, it would be the people who write exploits that take advantage of crappy passwords, right?
Sure.
And they still didn't do it. So
yeah.
why so much focus? Number 9 in the list. Why so much focus on user awareness training, right? It's kind of akin to prevention. You know, there's some detection there, and you, like I said, the relationship you have with employees, get to know you type things at lunch and learns. That helps you with prevention, but a lot of the detection. Sorry, a lot of this is kind of like, let's try and prevent these emails from being clicked on, right? Yeah. And how I feel about web app firewalls. That's our example of prevention techniques. It helps against the whackers, but not the hackers, right?
Yeah. Your lunch and learns make it sound like you're also trying to build communication bridges. Mm-hmm. So people won't be afraid to come and talk to you about security issues because, hey, that's the guy who, taught us to, make sure that we're, coding properly, or, we're doing this, and, oh, I clicked on this link. Maybe I should go and talk to him about that. Maybe you feel this makes you more approachable because you can, go, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help make sure that everybody stays happy and employed. And so, training in your line is more towards, building communication with employees, not just, no, don't do that. It's just try to, making sure that everybody feels more at ease.
Exactly. It's all about relationships, right? And that's a large part of helping you get things done. If you're unapproachable, it's a lot harder, even mostly as a security person, more so as a security person, to get things done if you're unapproachable.
That's true.
Because it's easy to fall into that a-hole trap that a lot of security people do. Stupid users, always clicking links, I can't believe it, make you feel stupid, that kind of thing. But again, I think security awareness training is almost a case study in and of itself on how our industry is failing. Right?
Ooh, wow.
I mean, we're willing to accept a 5, 10, 20% failure rate on a user awareness training. You go do the training, and there have been studies. I remember reading an article a while back on, it was a study where it was a military organization. They did a study on awareness training, and it's probably the scenario that you talked about. No big deal, go through the flash video and answer a few questions and you're done for the year. Well, they had a 90% failure rate when they tested their awareness training. I mean, that's bad. I mean, and you hear people like Jason Street always talking like, I always get in, right?
Sure.
Man,
sure.
It's tough for users to make the connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's I think training is that defense in depth that people are talking about too. Even if it is only 10% who get it, that's 10%. I'm trying to be optimistic. That's 10% less infection, possibly. I don't know. I'm seeing that kind of along that lines. But.
Well, if you have your ducks in a row on the detection front, and you can detect that someone got popped, then you can quickly analyze the signatures or the IP addresses that the malwareans went to, or the hackers, and then or the links that the user visited, and then you can go into your SIEM and find out who exactly matched those signatures, and then go to them and clean their machine up. So that way you have a proper list of who got infected and who didn't.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So whether it's 10 people or 20 people, you'll still know that all those people got infected.
Yeah.
Right? But, of course, I think the best security awareness training is when you go over to one of the users and tell them, hey, your machine's been compromised. We're going to have to re-image your box. Sorry.
That is
I don't think they'll
true.
forget that, because that in and of itself is going to be a lot of pain. And you don't want to live through that again, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you didn't back up everything.
Or, I mean, having the inconvenience of waiting for a new box to be imaged, or you losing all of your email from the past few years is a definite wake up call to people who get owned. Yeah. So, well, I think we beat that one to death, and we're 40 minutes, so we got a few more minutes left here. Before we did the podcast, you wrote down a list of names on the show notes.
Okay. So
and you spelled Jared's name wrong. Put 3 R's in there.
3 R's. Well, I stutter when I type. Sorry. Too much caffeine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain those to us and what they mean?
Okay. So what do Jared Freitas, Kevin Johnson, Mano Paul, James Jardine, Tyler Halfpop, Kevin Mitnick, Ed Scotus, Paul Coggin, and Ben 10 all have in common?
They're all guys that are in InfoSec, and a great many of those were at B-Sides Austin with you.
No. The answer is I met them all and had conversations with them at Derbycon last year. I mean, it's a great convention, and I'm telling you, all these guys are approachable.
Okay.
You know?
You mean the one you didn't take me to and you took your wife to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took my drug dealer. Yes.
Yeah. I'm still bitter, but only for about another 6 weeks. So, we're gonna, as many of you know, we are going to be at Derbycon. I'm going to be walking around with my Tascam, so I will be eminently approachable as well. So
me too. And Michael Goff will be there. He's given a talk. And I wonder what it's going to be about.
The log guy.
You know, Mr. Robot has that uniform. It says Mr. Robot. He should have a thing that says Mr. Log or something like that.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Very nice. So he's got a talk accepted though, so that's cool.
Yeah.
There's actually Lee Brotherston, who's been on the show a few times. He got a talk accepted at Derbycon, so that's good. We're going to get to see him.
I can't wait to see his presentation, because I think I know what it's going to be about.
Yeah,
that's going to
be awesome. Yeah. And this will be like my first top shelf convention to go to. I didn't want to go to Vegas this year because I don't like Vegas. So, one of the few things that you'll find out about myself or Mr. Betcher is that we don't necessarily need to drink a lot to have a good time. So if you find yourself not wanting to hang around people who like to drink a lot, come seek us out. We'll sit at a bar and suck down some, Mountain Dew or something with you if you don't want to do that kind of thing. So
hey, I've been listening to Crystal Method just to get psyched.
Crystal Method.
Yeah. They're gonna be there, right?
What kind of music are they?
Techno.
Okay, must miss. All right, so that's so not my bag. All right, unless it's like house music or something like that, then I might not hate on it. But...
Well, it's music that hackers listen to. They just have it in the background, and yes.
Is it? Okay, so hackers listen to techno.
Speaking of hackers, you did a CTF recently. Maybe you should have been listening to Crystal Method in the background, the Crystal Method.
What are you calling me out on that? Okay, so Leviathan Sec, they did a CTF so that you could get invited to their dinner at Black Hat called Narcosis. You can actually get to it still. It's narcosis.io, narcosis.io. It's a CTF that you can go and then do the examples and basically find the flag. And I did it. I'd never actually done one before. That was the first time I'd ever done one. It was nerve-wracking, to say the least.
You did one in Kevin Johnson's class, though.
it wasn't the same. I don't know why, but it wasn't the same. This was like the CTF in 542 was a race to the end, which I had people help, there who were able
On
to
your
help
team,
me.
right?
Yeah, I didn't have a team for this one, even though I'm sure some of the other people in this, the narcosis one had help. But yeah, there was like 40 some participants. I ended up 16th. I was as high as 4th at one time. Um, and the one thing I found out about these CTFs, because I do some ones that you download and you do the VMs and stuff, they really help you understand where you're lacking in knowledge. So, like, I thought I was actually pretty decent and knowledgeable about PCAPs, and apparently that is not the case. I can put them into Wireshark and whatever, but apparently I'm missing some nuances that I thought I knew. So now I'm going and having to study up on a little bit of that, and maybe to hone my skills a little bit with reverse engineering. And I think it's good if blue teamers actually sit down and do these kinds of things, because knowing how to properly analyze a PCAP is invaluable as not just a red teamer but a blue teamer as well. Or being able to reverse engineer a binary, maybe not so much for a blue teamer, but I mean, if you're doing malware hunting on your network and you want to see if it's a known issue. But
well, you could verify that you've got data going out, and it's all in binary or 64-bit encoding.
Well, that's true. Right? That's true. Or if you wanted to, test, if you're doing testing on the inside for an application you guys build, you might not have access to the source or something like that, and you may need to reverse engineer the binary to find out where an overflow or something happened. I'm not sure about the reverse engineering stuff. That's harder to swallow than the PCAP stuff. PCAPs are definitely something that's like bread and butter for any good network analysis or a network analyst. There were some other things on there. One of them was like reading the terms of service for iTunes, finding out whether or not things are available to be used. I can't go into any more of those because I'm actually still running through it. It's online. If you want to continue doing it, that's great.
So you just did a gap analysis on yourself, right? Right?
Yeah, I've been weighed, I've been measured, and I've been found lacking.
Well, now you know where those weaknesses are, and you can read. Well, this book came to mind when you mentioned PCAPs. Just read TCP/IP Illustrated Volume 1, and you'll never have a problem with PCAPs again. I guarantee you, if you get through it.
Yeah, I picked up practical packet analysis using Wireshark. And I also learned a little bit about TCP dump that I didn't know before, like being able to, like TCP replay, which allows you to replay, the packets in a PCAP to be able to figure out where, what it's doing and how it's acting. So that was another great little tool that I learned about. And, of course, anything you can learn about TCP dump and Wireshark is always good to learn. So, there's a bunch of CTFs out there. I mean, all you got to do is look up, I looked up reverse engineering exercises. There's what's the one that I always go to? VulnHub has vulnerable VMs that you can use to test various things, and there's a ton of CTFs out there. Just look up CTF competitions or something.
Yeah, and if you're just getting started, I think we have a video on installing WebGoat. So that's a good place to start as well.
That's true. And the new Mutilidae came out yesterday, and it's got some XML, basically the XSS version for XML called XXE. Mutilidae just literally came out yesterday. I saw that on Twitter, so I snagged a copy of that. The installation scripts are available to be able to set that up. And from what I understand, that it's August 9th when we recorded this. Kali 2.0 is coming out on the 11th. So there's going to be a lot of changes if you're a fan of Kali 1.0, and it's going to be nothing like Backtrack was. So they're doing some great stuff over there with the Kali instance with Kali. So
nothing like it. Are they going Fedora now or?
No, it's I think it's still, I think it's Debian based. Oh man, now you're gonna make me look it up. But they're doing other stuff like they're making sure that the upstream patches are available to, you know, any patches that they do inside of Kali goes back up to the original um, builds, you know, back up to the original repos for, let's say, Aircrack has a patch only in Kali. Well, that will go back up to them as well. Um, they're also small teaser. So, oh, yeah, it's just a video. Great. Thanks, guys. So, yeah, they're going to do a lot of stuff. The release day is still October the 11th, as far as I know, or August 11th. So get on it, download it, enjoy it. I know they will allow for certain distros. So if you only do wireless audits, you can download all the packages necessary for wireless audits, or do unattended builds, or, you know, that way you're not downloading a grip of packages you're never going to need or use. So the only real issue I ever had with Kali was you're running as root. So somebody had mentioned on Twitter during Black Hat and DEF CON that they saw a ton of people using Kali, which means everybody was running as root on their boxes. So if they were using lame-ass passwords for their Kali instances, they could, you know, their boxes could get owned. So one of the things that I've been doing in the past few months is setting up a user and using that, and then sudoing to root to do all my stuff. So, all right, well, that's it, sir. Thank you for calling me out on the CTF thing. I suck. I ended up 16th out of like 40 some people, but I could have been dead last, and if I hadn't tried, I wouldn't have known if I was getting any better. So.
At least you beat beep. I'm a Jeep.
yeah. Beep. I'm a Jeep. Yeah, I did. There's some crazy people out there.
All right, man. Is that a wrap?
Yeah, that's it. So, Mr. Betcher, where will people find you on Twitter if they need you?
On Twitter, I'm at Betcherpone, BOETTCHER, PWNED.
Right on. You can find me at Brian Break. The official Twitter is at Breaksec, BRAKESEC. Thank you to our patrons. I don't know why you guys support us, but we appreciate you supporting us. If you think that you get value for what we do here, feel free to pop a few bucks over there. Certain things, when you are the patrons, you get to hear full-length interviews, including the before and after stuff on our interviews. We try to record a lot of extra audio for that. But we haven't gotten swag yet, but we're working on that, I think, for Derbycon as well. So we're on iTunes. If you like us, please leave a review, because we have about a half a dozen reviews, and it's not nearly enough. So we're on SoundCloud. What else? SoundCloud, Facebook, facebook.com/breakingdownsec. We have Tumblr. We have Google Plus. We're all out there. We're very social. We have a LinkedIn group. I like to spam some LinkedIn groups with our podcasts, so that's always helpful. So, all right, Mr. Betcher, that was it. Hope you have a great week, sir.
I will.
Yeah.
I hope.
And
I hope you have a good week too.
Right on. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.